then yes, we are recording. So we we'll get started in this way, and welcome to everybody who's here. So this is a session of the Digital Enterprise Africa NPC, the Digital Enterprise Africa Foundation NPC. It's the 16th meeting of the office bearers. So I believe that today we are talking about InterVivos Trust, and today is the 4th of September 2022. So welcome everybody who's here. Obviously, you know that we normally start with a word of prayer, but I found two verses which I believe are very much relevant to what we are talking about here today. So as we welcome Dan, I just want to go through the book of Matthew chapter 21, verse 33 and 34. I see Dorothy has joined the call. Welcome. So this is Jesus speaking. It says, listen to another parable. There was a landowner who planted a vineyard. So, and the scripture says, he put a wall around it. Very important to put a wall around the vineyard that you're putting together, and to dig a wine press in it, and to build a watchtower. So I believe that what Dan is going to be talking to us about is exactly that wall, which is built around the vineyard, and how you then dig for wine presses within it, and also how to actually set up a watchtower. Then it says he rented the vineyard to some farmers and moved to another place. And then in verse 34, it says, when the harvest time approached, he sent his servants. So there will be people that, when Dan explains this, will become servants. There will be people who will actually be serving in the approach that he's going to be talking about. Servants to the tenants to collect his fruit. Very important. The fruit belongs to the landowner. The fruit belongs to the landowner. And in the middle, there are his servants. So it depends then what happens with his servants. Are the servants going to do things according to what the landowner had actually intended? We will see a lot of that in what Dan is going to explain. So we know our expectations. We say that this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity, and therefore we must take the responsibility seriously. We must work together. We must know that we are setting a clear example in what we do. So, but one last thing is we always must believe that we will succeed. These are the building blocks of our ecosystem: values at the bottom, skills that we bring, and then what we build from. So Dan is bringing a part of that, how entities are actually built, role models of entities, and then we go into startups, growth financing, and exit markets. This is just a snapshot of what we believe our ecosystem is going to become. Not going to go into that level of detail, and I thought I had removed that slide. So I stop right here and I hand over to Dan. Dan, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Mhlekazi, for the platform. And I really look forward to stimulating multidisciplinary thinking through this presentation. I'm going to share my screen so that we can see as what we are talking about as it unfolds, and I'm gonna put it in slideshow mode. Okay, so the outline, we're going to talk about InterVivos Trust, but there is a context within which InterVivos trusts operate. And so trusts are a fantastic vehicle. And so I'm gonna go into that context, the basis for a self-sustaining ecosystem. I will talk about that. 3 players in the economy and how we should use trusts to address the weakest link. Intergenerational African family wealth from beneficiary to benefactor. How we were benefited and how do we benefit others in light of the 20-year plus journey we've traveled from being beneficiaries of government interventions to being the benefactors, what to take into account. I'll talk about what a trust is, defining a trust in its broadest sense. InterVivos trust as tools to create, preserve, grow, and enjoy wealth, which is what wealth creators do. And I'm the founder of the African Wealth Creators Facebook page. Government stimulus package, and we'll go into what government offers and how government wants to build the economy from the bottom up by strengthening the economy of the households that make up the citizens of South Africa. Tax-free living in South Africa, because trusts play an integral role in that. So, and I've put an appetizer there. I once lived in my house for free, and I've tasted something fantastic. And today I want to see how trusts are the game changer for allowing me to do the same in my 4 million rand mansion in Silver Lakes, Pretoria. I did this in the Western Cape, by the way. I always start with something inspirational because I believe that the highest form of leadership is inspiring others. So I take inspiration from the founding father of South Africa's democracy, Dr. Nelson Mandela. In his inaugural speech, he read, and I quote, "Our deepest fear is not that we are inadequate. Our deepest fear is that we are powerful beyond measure. It is our light, not our darkness, that most frightens us. We ask ourselves, who am I to be brilliant, gorgeous, talented, fabulous? Actually, who are you not to be? You are a child of God. Your playing small does not serve the world. There's nothing enlightened about shrinking so that other people won't feel insecure around you. We are all meant to shine, as children do. We were born to make manifest the glory of God that is within us. It is not just in some of us, it is in everyone. And as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same. As we are liberated from our own fear, our presence, our mere presence, automatically liberates others. It is an excerpt from Marianne Williamson's book. So I'm going to talk about the basis for an ecosystem, the wheel of life, a tool that I'm using and I have used extensive economy. So as humans, we are spiritual beings. We have been gifted with marvelous, marvelous mind we have never seen. So we live in physical bodies. Those three parts, spirit, mind, and body, form the triple-faceted human being. We were born into families whose prayers have brought us to where we are today. These families exist in society, and ours is a society of previously marginalized people of the African continent, from the days of slavery to colonialism to apartheid to unequal digital distribution today. Okay, our lives cost money. And so the earning of this money is one of the key topics that we will address and see the role that trusts play in the earning and keeping of this money, because it's not really about how much money you earn, it's about how much you keep so that it can, unlock value, minimize risks, and give you the ability to do more with less from where you are. So I will share my vocation model, which is my opportunity for sharing my gift of value to the world in my lifetime. So understanding the ecosystem parts and realizing that it's about abundance in every pillar of this wheel of life. of this ecosystem. This is a self-sustaining ecosystem. No lack. So poverty is a thing of the past. How do we build the ecosystem for taking tax-free benefits government offers? So according to that Wheel of Life model, we are the self-sustaining ecosystem for the secular knowledge economy. This is what South Africa is pursuing today. And as I was saying to you, Mr. Sondo, earlier on about the recent space conference that we had under the theme Space Economy, the secular economy is really about sustainable resource utilization. The greatest resource that remains unutilized is the human intellect, is the mental resources that psychologists tell us by the time the average person goes to their grave, they will not have used more than 10% of their mental resources. And that is a shame. So through this presentation, I'm going to highlight how we can begin to get Africa's youthful population who are in that state where we were when we were beneficiaries of the government intervention called ISSA, how they can start to see a different reality. So let's talk about the economy. 3 players in the economy: government, businesses, and households. All of us sitting here, all of us who will listen to this come from households. Governments and businesses draw from the skill sets of households for labor, even for the consumption of resources, and depend on the very citizens to create a country that is a dream that once was envisioned by the likes of Nelson Rolihlahla Mandela. So the weakest link in that tripartite alliance of government, businesses, and households is the household, the oldest institution on earth, the home of what should be unconditional love. And if we are still standing as the African household throughout the plethora of tsunamis that came our way, it's an indicator of resilience in our own economy, regardless of what is happening in the national and global economy. We need to build a citizenry that is thinking beyond what we see, and we must walk by faith. So the maturity continuum is one of those pillars that are crucial because we are all born dependent. We go through various levels of independence, and we ultimately venture out into an area beyond independence, which is interdependence. And an ecosystem is a classical descriptor for that kind of reality and existence. So legacy, intergenerational wealth, perpetual. Now, my father lived from 1932 to 2003, 71 precious years. So we don't have perpetual existence on planet Earth. Trusts that we are discussing today will help us to establish our perpetual selves, who they will help us live beyond our stay on planet Earth and contribute towards this dream that Agenda 2063 so eloquently captures. Education, 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 Sustainable Development Goal number 4 of the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals. And so how we use an African home must totally change. And COVID-19 has introduced us to this, how we should utilize the African home, where parents are the executives and they're bringing up children, and the primary teacher of a child is a parent. So we need to pass how to run these trusts that seek to benefit our children as beneficiaries, to actually drive them for intergenerational wealth. Now, in the knowledge economy, Africa's wealth is in its people, not so much in the material resources lying underground, tools that the people must use to create life in abundance. So we must become assets I'll share a little bit around that. Family is the most important pillar in the wealth creation, preservation, growth, and enjoyment process. And powerful families make a powerful economy. The inside approach to development, not the legislated outside in approach, the inside out. All right, trusts for entrepreneurs and investors to promote entrepreneurship and investing in the African household. Forget about governments, except as partners. Forget about businesses and the past that has led to the skewed economic development that we see, with only 3 provinces in South Africa contributing double digits to the economy. Forget about all of that and say, let me take responsibility for the role that I as an individual play. Stop blaming everybody, stop blaming the government, stop blaming the economy, stop blaming the weather, stop blaming the neighbors. So we need to shift the paradigm of working for money, which is what we are programmed to do through the school system, towards money working for us. Very, very hard for us. Money as the slave. That is a concept that I want to bring to this ecosystem. So the problem statement, I'm going to define it this way, and that lays the foundation for trusts as tools. Africans are trained to work for money, minding other people's businesses, relying on the economic production mechanisms of others. This was my journey from 1982 to 2000. The African household financial statement has little to no assets, and that is a problem. And I'm going to show you how trusts will help us to make this transition. The little African household assets that are there are not institutionalized, leading to perpetual succession problems, and therefore not experiencing the intergenerational wealth legacies that we see some families enjoying here in the very same country. So we need these partnerships. And for my journey, it has been a real partnership between those who have enjoyed this for years and me, who comes out of an era of lack, only trained to be a holder of academic qualifications for that job that we look forward to. What about the child of today, where unemployment for youth and even graduates is so high? We need a total shift in thinking. So this is the game we know too well: earn, pay tax, spend money. It's one part of the system. It works, it has been working for years, but it is not efficient. It definitely is a wasteful system. All right. We need to transform the thinking to the opposite: earn, spend, and pay tax on what's left. That is the way of the entrepreneurs. That is the way of the wealth creators. That is the way of the investors. So here is the transition. It is beginning to happen now. Programmed to work for money, as I said, as an employee. But according to Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, we need to become business owners. We need to operate on the right-hand side of their cash flow quadrant rather than the left-hand side. This is the fast track. This is the fast lane. And this is what will get us to the promised land at great speed, faster than a low Earth orbiting satellite traveling at 7.7 kilometers per second. All right. So when money becomes the worker working hard, then we are beginning to change the game. When my money works hard for me, I don't have to work at all. And if I work, I will only work on what I enjoy and get paid to do what I love, like Lionel Messi and Usain Bolt and Tiger Woods. So, all right, we are all CEOs. Everybody is a CEO of the business of our lives. Now, Kiyosaki eloquently puts it in this book rich dad, poor dad, 3 financial statements. The financial statement of the poor on the left, money coming in through a job, out through expenses. Poor people can't even afford to take loans. They don't earn enough because they finish it before it even, can go anywhere. And the system of education that has prepared us academically, at best with that tool, that education, go to school, get good grades, graduate, and get a good job with benefits, be loyal until age 65 and rely on your accumulated pension until you die. That system, at best, will get you from the poor to the middle class. And South Africa's middle class is said to be the second fastest growing in the world, largely because of Black economic empowerment, broad-based Black economic empowerment, affirmative action, and the interventions of democratic dispensation. But we seem to be stuck with this ceiling above our heads. We need to move into the era of the entrepreneurs, the value creators, value extractors. We need a mindset that shifts our population to be dominated by those who create value, who create jobs, rather than those who seek jobs, who consume jobs. All right. And the third financial statement is actually the financial statement of the rich. This is the ideal African household financial statement with assets that put money in our pocket, whether we work or not, because that is a classical Robert Kiyosaki definition of what an asset is. And trusts play a crucial role in this process, not only for the creation, but particularly for the preservation of assets, preservation, the growth in a protected environment, trust environment, the enjoyment using principles like the conduit principle. And I'll talk a little bit about that. So what we are to do, we are challenged to create, to build, or to buy assets. And like I said, assets put money in your pocket, whether you work or not. A job is not an asset because a job only puts money in your pocket when you work. You stop working, the money stops coming. You can't pass a job to your children. I see colleagues resign all the time. And that job they used to occupy, they can't pass a single benefit to their offspring. And as soon as they resign, the money they were getting every 25th of the month doesn't come anymore. So a job is not an asset. And the house you live in is not an asset either. Why? Because cash, the direction of cash flow is telling us. And that financial statement that I've just shared with you from Kiyosaki's definitive accounting, best accounting book ever written, Rich Dad, Poor Dad. It shows you the direction of cash flow. The rich earn their money from assets. And assets put money in their pocket. So we need to learn how to create assets. We are creative beings. We need to learn how to build them. We need to learn how to buy them. But most importantly, we need to learn how to become assets ourselves and not liabilities. If I am a job seeker, I'm a job consumer, and I depend on that job for my livelihood, I depend on the service of the Department of Health for my health. I depend on, I am the one who wants to consume, and I do not produce. I am in violation of the principles that we are talking about, the wealth creation, preservation, growth, and enjoyment principles. So in my world, I want to get paid every day. As an employee, I get paid once a month. One source of income is hazardous to your wealth. Multiple sources of income is the name of the game. I share a lot, and I talk about what that looks like, and it doesn't have to be for all of us, but there are key institutions that need to be part of the weakest link in the tripartite government, businesses, and households. Household is the weakest link, largely, especially the household that is led by a graduate, a science graduate for that matter, with very little economics and business acumen, has no assets, completely. And so rely on salaries and income. And we base our entire livelihoods. That's a risk. COVID-19 has demonstrated that so eloquently. It's a risk. One failure point, you lose that job, you've lost a lot if that was everything for you. So research, development, and innovation. We cannot talk of innovation unless we invest in research and development. It's not just government with its target of investing 2% of GDP in R&D. Households need to invest in research. Behind me is my home office library. Research, development, and that's why the innovations come out. They don't just pop up. So that is a basic fundamental. We need to all be involved heavily in research, mastering the creative process. Quality education beyond academics, beyond NQF system up to level 10. Professional education, we're talking about financial literacy. It's missing completely in our education. So it produces people that are predisposed for finding jobs. And then when the system cannot produce as many jobs as is demanded, then we have a serious unemployment issue in South Africa. So we are solving unemployment from the bottom up. Real estate investing, fantastic vehicle there. Entrepreneurship. It's a mindset first, it's a skill set, and it's rules. That's Robert Kiyosaki. So building banks, I've highlighted that because the government of South Africa wants every citizen to have a bank. I will repeat it slowly this time. The government wants us to build banks. That's why they give us tax incentives. I will get into that a little bit. And then we must let each one teach the other. If you want to enjoy tax-free living in South Africa, there's one vehicle that can help you get there, and that's an InterVivos trust. And in the current financial year, individuals below age 65 have been given wonderful tax stimulus package that allows us to enjoy tax-free living up to 115,050 rand per person, tax-free. Now, this should be part of economic management science. This should be part of business studies. This should be part of accounting subjects in school. So, in a nutshell, what is a trust? A trust is a contract in terms of which the founder makes available assets to be managed in accordance with the trust deed for the benefit of beneficiaries. So it includes three parties. There is a founder. I am the founder. There are beneficiaries. I can be a beneficiary. My wife can be a beneficiary. We can bring in a trustee. Sorry about that. Founder, trustees, the equivalent of directors in a private company, charged with the responsibility to manage the affairs of another, required to demonstrate a level of skill that is required of somebody who manages the affairs of another. That another could be a child who is helpless, could be a disabled family member, could very well be anybody who stands to benefit from this trust. So founder, trustees who take responsibility to learn how to grow assets. Normally, we are given 100 Rand to open a bank account, and voila, let's grow it to 100,000 Rand. And that is the skill set that Robert Kiyosaki talks about. Skill set. You don't get that by going to school and getting a degree. This is a practical skill set that you must learn through taking responsibility, finding out from those who have that skill, and learning from them. And that's exactly what I did. So the beneficiaries can be discretionary or vesting beneficiaries. If it's a vesting trust, then the beneficiaries have a benefit that is defined, and the trustees cannot exercise their discretion as to whether the beneficiaries must receive the benefits. But in a discretionary trust, which is a very, very powerful trust, which is my favorite by far, the power is with the discretion is with the trustees, whether or not to distribute the benefit. And that is the power of trust. So trusts allow us to leverage the tax stimulus package that the government gives to citizens. The law is not written for lawyers. It's written for the citizen. So we need to all take responsibility to read. This is in the Tax Pocket Guide 2022-2023. And this is a fantastic opportunity. Every parent needs to learn how to give this to our children, even though I know we did not grow up as beneficiaries ourselves. So we were not passed these tax-free benefits in good old apartheid era. So we tend to want to raise our children the same way we were raised. Trusts are a fantastic vehicle for creating our own economy, all right? So just as an example, I'm demonstrating here what a family of 6, I'm a father of 6 beautiful girls, 190,400 tax-exempt interest income. Who gives you that? How far can this go in building a new economy? Every child, there are estimated 21 million children in the school system in South Africa. If every child gets access to this, hey, then we are blessed beyond measure, because then the household becomes the center of economic productivity, not the corporate world. And the corporate world, I mean, who owns the companies on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange? It's families somewhere. They've organized themselves one way or another in consortia and all sorts of arrangements, complicated structures, trusts owning some of them owned by individuals in their own personal capacities. It's families. It's families. Oppenheimer family, the Rupert family, the Motsepe family, the Masiiwa family, the richest billionaire in Southern African development community. Those are the inspiration. So African family assets, after we've created, built, and bought them, and we have decided to also become assets ourselves, not liabilities. African family assets must be protected from the attacks of creditors. And these creditors could be the very government, could be your employer, could be the bank, it could be a hostile creditor, it could even be a disgruntled ex-girlfriend. Maybe you promised to marry her and you didn't. And vice versa, because trusts are not just for men, all right? So in terms of asset protection, I'm going to quote the master property investor here. In terms of asset protection, no entity comes close to a trust. Flexibility, perpetual existence, separation of ownership. These are some of the key benefits that trust offers. And so we need to shelter our assets in trusts, and we must build a lot of assets so that we have that resilience that we've demonstrated against the tsunamis that came our way as Africans. So let me just now give you teasers now. I'm going to highlight the power of trusts, basic principles. Robert Kiyosaki says, it's not how much money you earn that matters. No, when we were earning 100,000 Rand tracking satellites for government in Bredasdorp, we wished for the day we earned 100,000 a month, and that day came. And soon you realize that it's not how much money you earn really that matters. It is how much of that money you keep. In the system, tax system, progressive tax system that we use in South Africa from 18% all the way to 45%. The more you earn, the more the receiver of revenue takes. So employment is a very tax inefficient method. And over 96% of the world's population earns its money that way. It's called the people at work strategy. It's a weak strategy. It needs to die with the industrial age and be replaced by the money at work strategy, where money is the slave and people are the masters that God created us to be in his own image. Okay, so principle, it's not how much money you earn that matters, but how much you keep. Robert Kiyosaki. Be the bank, not the banker. That is an entire chapter in Rich Dad, Poor Dad. So I'm going to show you strategies that I have used for building the African household bank. I'm a scientist, and the signature of a scientist is we ask questions, we observe and document, and we come up with theories and we experiment to test the validity of these theories. My life is an experiment. And I'm encouraging all of you to experiment with your life, experiment with business, experiment with investments, experiment. Stay within the law, but experiment. Ignorance of the law is not a good excuse for violating the law. I'm married to a judge, so I know. All right. So be the bank, not the banker. Become the bank. I told you, South African government wants you to own a bank, to build a bank. The rich use corporations for everything they do, including their investments and businesses. The main principle there of the rich that I've been studying since I met Hannes Dreyer is they want to own nothing. They are not in the business of building and accumulating estates, because estate duties at the end game are going to be applicable. Capital gains taxes. These are all voluntary taxes that can be avoided through proper tax planning. But proper tax planning is preceded by proper tax education, and it is missing in our academic institutions. So you need to go outside the system in order to get these answers. And that's what I've had to do. So owning nothing, controlling everything. That is the strategy of the rich. Because when they owned everything through their entities like InterVivos trusts, their death doesn't involve transfer of assets from themselves to their beneficiaries or those that they've elected in their wills. But the death of Dan Matsapola doesn't trigger any exchange or transfer of assets if Dan has planned during his lifetime. So InterVivos trusts are trusts that you established during your lifetime. There is another type of trust that is called Mortis Causa Trust. That is the trust that comes into being through your last will and testament. All right, that's legal jargon there that we have to get used to, scientist or not. You know, a part of what you earn is yours to keep. That's Soros, the richest man in Babylon. Now, I'm going to share with you the ownership strategy, and I'm mindful of time. Look, you can own it until you die, and that is what the average person believes. It's my car, my name on it, through my ID number on e-notice, I can pick up exactly what you own. No privacy there. Your whole life It's public domain information. Or you can own it forever. Now, if we're gonna die, then we must work with entities that have perpetual existence. And I prefer that over owning it until you die. Now, there are only basically 4 strategies you can use to transfer assets from your personal estate to a trust, be it a family trust or any other type of trust that is an InterVivos trust. You can donate it, and the government guides you on what applies in terms of donation. The first 100,000 rands worth of property donated per year per person is tax-free. Tax-free. After that, donations tax kicks in at 20% until you trigger a 30% increase. I'm sure that's where the big billionaires are. Sell your assets to a trust, loan your assets to a trust, bequeath through a last will and testament, bequeath your assets to your trust. Now, I'm talking about the ownership strategy to creating a bank. I told you the government wants you to build a bank. So let's see how you use that. You leverage that. The first, this is donations tax. This is from the SARS. This is from the tax pocket guide, written for citizens, not for tax consultants, not for accountants, not for lawyers, but for citizens. So we must read these. These are packages that work for us. Interest exemptions, interest income. I showed you exactly what it would mean if every member of my family was receiving it. And that is my goal as a father, to pass these to my children. That is my responsibility. That's why I am the African Household Executive, Chief Executive Officer. All right, let's explore another strategy for developing the bank. If you reinvest in real estate, you have the greatest opportunity to build the bank over time, leveraging inherent qualities of real estate. All right. You can also extract one income from real estate and pay tax on that rental income, especially if you are employed and you own it in your personal name. Or you can extract 5 income streams and pay no tax. Now that is beautiful. This is not tax evasion. It's not tax evasion. That is illegal. And you get to jail for that. You plan. You use the law to your advantage. You plan. You sit down, you think, you consult, and you find what the provisions of the law says. And then you implement with confidence, because when you understand, then you have nothing standing in your path. So the power of creativity in structuring the deal. So don't allow anybody to tell you there's only one way to structure a deal. There is infinite number of ways to structure a property transaction. And all those variables, my mentor teaches the 27 variables of a property. 27 variables, financial variables as well as intellectual. Now that is quality education right there. So you study the 7 laws of a property investor and you understand how to apply them and use them. My favorite by far is related to today is the 7th law, protect your assets with financial structures. But my favorite law by far that has made me who I am today is the 0th law. No, the 1st law, invest in yourself first before you invest a cent in any business or investment. We are so eager to get involved. I was like that in 2002 when I bought my first property. Eager to get involved in something I don't understand. And I get burned and I start calling property names. Property is not necessarily a good investment. It can be when you understand what you are doing. When you are just rushing in thinking using the principle everybody knows property is a good investment, you are in trouble. So trust play a critical role. And when you set up your structures at the very beginning, my goodness, magic happens. Magic happens. So I've lived in my 4-bedroom house in Budazo for free with 3 tenants before I even knew about trusts. Now that I know about trusts, I tell you this. Trusts, InterVivos trusts are a game changer. When you learn to manage your money through trusts, a whole new world of possibilities opens up to you. You really feel in control of your life. You are not at the mercy of circumstances. All right. How can you live in your house for 0 rand, 0 cents? Well, you have to be the ambassador God created you to be, and use trusts to create intergenerational tax-free wealth. Work with your family. Involve your children. Switch off that bloody TV that is stealing the wealth of our nation. I vowed in 2012, today I celebrate 10 years, that I will not watch TV until they watch me on it. So, ladies and gentlemen, trusts are a game changer. We must learn how to use them. Even though we have never been beneficiaries of trusts, as Africans, we are not used to a family setting where trusts were used as vehicles for managing the affairs of the family. I really believe every family should have a family trust that holds all the debt-free, paid-off assets. I believe that real estate, by the way, the real in real estate is royal estate. So real estate is the business of the royal. If Jesus is the King of kings, we are all kings and queens. So royal estate is the business of royal family. So everybody should learn how to invest in property, not just to develop it, but how to invest, not how to gamble, but how to invest long-term, generating passive income streams, buying and holding it, letting it out to tenants, leveraging tax stimulus packages like Section 13 SEX, the ultimate property investor stimulus package. So in a nutshell, we need to be doing this as a digital ecosystem. In fact, we need to become an ecosystem of entrepreneurs and investors, wealth creators, so that when each of us comes and brings something unique, then we can create the ecosystem that is powerful, a powerful mastermind group. And so I will share with you the final strategy, which is the partnership strategy. Work all by yourself or involve your children. Involve them young. It's counterintuitive. It's not how we were brought up. Let them know what trusts are. Let them understand that you can partner with the government to unlock value. And that while we love our politicians, none of them, from the president to the premier to the mayor of our local municipality, none of them can ever build a single asset and put it on your African household financial statement. So that is something only we as individuals can do. And so let us leverage the tax laws. Let us build businesses. Most importantly, let us run these businesses from our homes. Real estate is one of the best home-based businesses alive. One of the best methods for building the African household bank that spins out positive interest income. The first 23,800 of which is tax-free, even for somebody who's earning huge salary in employment in the corporate world at 45% tax bracket. It still is tax-free to you. Isn't that beautiful? It's like giving yourself a 23,800 Rand annual increase tax-free. Try getting a salary increase in your job and watch how a big chunk of it is taken by the authorities, by law, by the way. So it is our duty, our responsibility to plan and not blame the system. So this is the past financial year. It's actually 2 years back. Tax threshold was 83,100. Today we know it's over 92,000 Rand. So it keeps going up. So we can plan around this. We keep complaining that I've heard Aliko Dangote, Africa's richest man, saying certainty of policy is what the problem is. And when there is no policy certainty, it makes it impossible to plan ahead. Well, there is, study the South African government tax stimulus package for the last 10 years, and you can see what the next 10 years holds. So therefore, stability, law and order are inherently provided for in democratic South Africa. Ladies and gentlemen, this is one of the greatest opportunities we have living in democratic South Africa, Africa's leading economy. Let us maintain that leading position by making sure that the citizenry of South Africa is empowered through proper education. Tax-free living using 2020-2021 financial year. 498,600 Rand, who gives you that? Well, your government does, tax-free. If you learn how to do it, you learn the rules of the game and you play the game by the rules. And this is my last slide. The lower the risk. What kills all businesses? It's risk. The greatest risk we face is the risk of ignorance, not knowing. So when you don't know that you don't know what you don't know, my mentor calls you confoculated. And the best thing that can happen is you must watch this video we are recording now. Attend one of my awareness sessions. And then you will learn, you will now know that you don't know what you don't know. Because it is only then that you can do something about it. Attend a course, enroll for the Danneo Abundance Mentorship Program, where I teach you over 53 weeks in a year how to multiply your money. Because I know how. I have taken those lessons over the last 20 years from authors all over the world, mentors distributed across the world. And so money can work for you at 100%, very low. It's exciting for people who are used to 6%, 7%. But for a wealth creator, there is only one growth rate. It's infinite return on investment. That's when I divide by zero, the ultimate investing skill. So with that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity and say trusts are the game changer in entrepreneurship and investing. They are not registered at the DTI. They are registered at the Master of the High Court. All right. They are not a creation of the Companies Act. They are regulated by the Trust Property Control Act. So let us study the law. Let us invest in ourselves. Let us understand that we are not victims, but we are victors. And with that, I would like to bring this session to a close. And if there are questions, I will take a couple. Mr. Sondlo, back to you.
Thank you, Dan. Well, we promised ourselves that this would be okay. You can shut down that slide, please. Thank you. We promised ourselves that this would be a 1 hour session. So because it's recorded, my proposal is that we stop it, and then if there's any questions, I would like to ask that we take the questions on the HOTEC ISSA alumni WhatsApp group. They may sound like there's no context for them there, but if you don't mind, what we'll do is we will make this video available to the whole alumni, and then after that, we'll give maybe a day, and then we take questions from there. And I think one of the first questions that I will ask, then just to give you a heads up, is for you to give us a little illustration of how the 45% tax rate actually works regarding trusts, and how it compares to, for instance, corporates and, for instance, individual rates, and basically how to best take advantage of it. But I would like to thank everybody who has come to this session. I think Lerato was here earlier. Zevangeli was also here earlier. So we'll make this video available on the HOTEC platform. But I would like us to close in a word of prayer. And as you saw that we started with a scripture, but now I just want to give a verbal confession of a prayer, which is in the book of Psalms, chapter 19, verse 14. It's that last verse of the book of Psalms. So I'll close my video as I pray. Let the words of our mouth and the meditation of our hearts be acceptable in your sight, O Lord, our strength and our Redeemer. In the name of Jesus, amen. Dan, thank you so very much for what you have done. We really appreciate every second that you have spent with us. I would like to thank your family for releasing you to do all this research for us. And we want to ask you to make yourself available for any questions. Thank you, Dan.
Thank you, leadership.
Amen. And thank you. Good night.